welcome back to another episode of Over the Glass. I'm your host, Jay.
Co-host Nessa.
And I am co-host Drew.
And I guess today we're going to be talking a little bit about the NHL All Star that happened. It's done now, right? They're moving on to the AHL All Stars today. We're recording on a Sunday. I do want to kind of start out by saying, with all the stuff that kind of came out with the World Juniors Canada, the case coming back up again, and them putting out the notice that those 5 players who have been confirmed now as the ones that have taken leaves of absence from their teams. It really gave me some mixed feelings about really spending any time consuming anything at the NHL All Stars. I mean, I ended up doing it, but yeah, it was definitely like a time during the week where I was really kind of like not really feeling anything that the NHL was going to be like. It just felt like a convenient distraction, even though the timing of it being reopened and the London police putting out that statement for them to come forward, it was just a troubling time for sure.
Yeah, we get the press conference tomorrow by London Police. Of course, conveniently, it slid that in there between All Stars and the season resuming. So I don't have high expectations for that press conference tomorrow. I feel like it's going to be a lot of everything we already know. To be honest with you guys.
Yeah, and it's already at some point Bettman was there available at All Stars, and of course reporters doing the job that they should be doing is trying to get us some information about, well, what is the NHL stance on what's going on and all this stuff, and just like his reactions to it, while not surprising, are definitely frustrating, especially when there was I can't recall the reporter's name off the top of my head at the moment, but that reporter was definitely asking him a series of questions related to it, and just his response to her was just seemed so backhanded. And I get that this is your baby, and like this in terms of a business is frustrating, but like it just seems like they're trying their best to ignore it, and it's really tough to see.
Yeah. Robin Doolittle was the reporter there that was
There you
pressing
go. Mm-hmm.
Bettman, and her and Rick Westhead have done a great job covering this story, and trying to at least push and pursue for answers. The one thing out of that exchange that really I laughed about was Gary saying, "Well, this isn't indicative of how our players conduct themselves. Our sport is safe and inclusive and welcoming," and it's like, okay. All right, from the guy that banned, warm-up jerseys and rainbow tape, and threatened to, fine Fleury in the wild over an indigenous mask. Like, okay, Gary, I don't know if you know what inclusive means, but it definitely doesn't mean how you're using it.
Yeah. Do you guys follow Sam? I forget her
Yes.
last name.
Yes.
Sam,
Yeah,
the lawyer,
that's
the Canadian lawyer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you guys look through that thread that she posted after those comments?
Yes.
And skim through
this
it.
Is not,
yeah.
not representative of the hockey culture, whatever. And then it's just a bunch of headlines of hockey players committing
And even like the most recent
assaults.
one with like the Dallas Stars former Mike Roberto, him being like, oh no, this is not reflection on NHL players. Exhibit A, like one of the most recent things to happen. And even though he was, insert legal word here, like he wasn't convicted, guilty, I think that the jury, legal word here, they couldn't come to a unanimous answer to and I guess that's necessary in this process. So I saw that this would most likely mean that the case is going to, like, he's going to have to go through it again. And, like we've seen numerous times, because this is not the first, and sadly it's not going to be the last time that this sport is going to come to face that yet another player has done something that is continuously being swept under the rug and part of this hockey culture, that people are so quick to just be looking for, oh, he the verdict was not guilty, so that means none of this happened. Like, no, that just means that they didn't have enough evidence to definitely say this person's guilty of that. Like,
No.
yeah, just
I think
like the
one
way
of the
people walk.
arguments.
Huh?
Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
I mean, just the way that people are like, and and I'm sure there's some people, and I don't feel like this is majority of people, but there are some people out there where I think it was like last episode where you had, Nessa, you had prompted the question of like, would we feel if this would be the same response if it was a high profile player? And I feel like one of you guys had said, maybe some folks would, there be more folks defending than maybe just these guys that, I mean, not to say all the ones that in this most recent case that's happening are like some third line, fourth line grinders. Like they are some, big names within the teams that they were a part of. But, we're thinking of someone who's like the face of like the NHL, who would be the face of the NHL. And when you invest all of this, like, anticipation and passion into, this person helping the team that you root for, yeah, there is going to be like that bit of like a denial period. But I feel like the people who are not in that in that situation where they're just trying to come to terms with like, oh my god, like, but all this time and love that I gave to this player, now I've got to kind of like retract from that and detach myself from that. But there's people out there who are just like, no, I just want to watch the sport, like, stop, can we talk about hockey? And like, okay, cool, like, he's not guilty, can we move on while you guys keep talking about it? Like, those are the people that I feel like are just the most frustrating out of all of these situations.
And those are the people too that they argue in the comments. So, but what happens? Innocent until proven guilty, and it just as soon as, in a lot of these cases, it's not a lack of like a lack of wrongdoing. It's just a lack of critical evidence that pinpoints them to the wrongdoing. Like a lot of these cases are dismissed from just there's a lack of grounds of standing there. So it's not like anybody has really gone too far in proving their innocence as much as it's just been a lack of two parties being able to prove either side. So which is like an interesting sort of like thing, because all these people are so quick to jump into the comments and say, well, what happens to, innocent till proven guilty? And it's like, well, when you come out and the verdict says not guilty, but it's not really as much as it is like not guilty as much as we just weren't able to, as the court of law states, without a doubt, prove this. Like, it's not, your argument doesn't really hold up too much anyway about the whole, what about we preserve innocence until the court says something? It's like, because in a lot of times in these cases, the court isn't saying what you're saying in the comments while you're defending these guys. So those are the people that, like, to be honest, really, really aggravate me. I feel like if it were somebody like Connor McDavid, like, talk about like the face of the NHL, like the thing about Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews, two big names with the All Stars this weekend. If it's one of those guys, and Austin Matthews has been one of these guys, let's not forget that, right? There was a story about his conduct with the security guard in Scottsdale, Arizona. And these big name dudes. I mean, it's like a mob. Like, oh, first of all, if you think that you're going to win brownie points with the multimillionaire, NHL guy for saying that he's not innocent online, that's your priority is a little bit mixed up, my friend. But but it's not, like these people are still piling on, and well, okay, Austin was proven X, Y, and Z, or uh, like Nick Cousins and the guys from uh, earlier in the there was a case that you were talking about with Samantha that she had pointed out about the juniors case with like Nick Cousins. There's still people that like defend those guys after it's all said and done. So I don't know if there would have been a more outcry from people wanting the right sort of result. If it would have been a big name guy, I feel like we would have gotten a lot of what we're seeing now with dudes that aren't as household staples like somebody like Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews, where it's oh well, let's leave it for the court, and it's like, okay, let's do that, and then let's see if the court even gives the victim the kind of closure that she should, she's justified receiving, because a lot of times the courts are dropping the balls on these cases too. So
Yeah, and going back to the Sam that everybody's thinking of, and I can't think of her Twitter handle at the moment. She is one of the podcast hosts for the broadcast, and if you want to kind of get, now she doesn't do this type of law, but she is a lawyer in Canada, and so I found it really helpful and kind of just answered some of the questions that I was thinking of by listening to their episode that they recorded this past week. So if you kind of want that sort of like insight, again, she doesn't do this type of law, so she can only kind of give a general sort of idea of, fill in some of the holes that us average joes are like, what's going on, like what's going to happen. And then also a lot of the great work that Rick West has been doing. There was an article that he put out that kind of, he talked to some folks who have done some work in like sex crime cases and things like that. And so a lot of kind of like that insight of like what to sort of expect. So go check out those resources if you're like us and just kind of, want to have a better picture of what to kind of expect moving forward.
Her handle is at Samantha CP _.
that's what I thought it was. I knew it was CP something, but I couldn't remember where the underscore went. Yeah.
It's at the end, in case y'all want to find her if you don't follow her already.
Also, apologies to you both and to our listeners, because I might trip over my words an astounding amount today because of the migraine. So if you guys will all just bear with me, like a chain of coherent thought will come out at some point. It might take a minute to get there.
It's okay. It makes for a longer episode.
I just thought you were being your regular self, so
I do a great job, but it's pretty incredible how much of a trooper I can be, because I used to go through like my work days, and the only way that my staff could tell is they would walk up and be like, "You got a headache, don't you?" I'm like, "How can you tell?" "Well, your face is really red." It would be like I just like go through the day just in complete pain, just trying to put on a smile for like my staff and my customers and stuff, and it would always be the one 16-year-old kid I thought was like too busy, TikToking to pay attention, and they would come up and they'd be like, "You have a headache, you don't feel good." I'm like, "How do you know that?" "Oh, your face is so red." So, "Have you eaten today?" It would always be like the follow-up question.
Gotta take care of yourself. But in light of like all the news regarding Hockey Canada that broke out, it's been really difficult to find any sort of excitement leading up to the All Star weekend, because like you mentioned before, Drew, it's like they're trying to sweep it under the rug, especially with the press conference that's supposed to happen tomorrow. How they specifically waited until after the All Star weekend. Obviously, there's some fun things that did happen that we're gonna talk about in a little bit, but these moments really make it hard for me to find enjoyment in this sport.
Yeah, I have to say that I was more hyped to watch some PWHL this weekend. I mean, with the whole, I've been super hyped to tune into those games anyway, just because they're so competitive and fun. But it was really hard. I mean, like we had 6 Canucks, a coach, a mascot. Like it was a pretty notable time for us in Vancouver, and it was still really hard to enjoy the event like I wanted to, knowing that the NHL was already on this train of trying to sweep a pretty big issue, a pretty detrimental, like not just to the sport but to society. And again, some of the same old. Here comes this bad news. We sweep it under the rug. Guys, pretend that you didn't see this or hear this kind of thing. It was really hard to enjoy All Star the way I wanted to, knowing that moments in between these events, Gary Bettman is saying crazy things like, "This isn't indicative of the culture of the sport." Like, Gary, you come back down to earth, my man.
Yes, it is.
Right.
Where you been?
Right.
All right, so let's move on to Michael Bublé.
They could have ended All Star Thursday night, and this would have been fine.
on so many fronts, like so many people on PR or whoever just like internally screaming, but I was living for it.
My
People
favorite
love it.
thing, dude, my favorite thing was like when they're sitting there and he comes out and he's like, I've been on shrooms. Like this was supposed to be a microdose, and Will Arnett like follows up behind him. He's like, anybody got the guts to follow up with the shrooms? Like, that's like, I think you just cost yourself some sponsorship deals.
Oh my god.
It's just video though. Like you can see it in his eyes. He's dripping so hard. And he was like so surprised by it, like,
He does so much with the Canucks, and I have never seen him this lively and this animated. And like he had that speech on the ice about like, I did my hair for 30 minutes for this, and I'm like, what is all like Bublé? Like, what are we doing, man? Like, you're eating the draft clock. And then in the press conference, he's like, oh yeah, I'm tripping. It's like everything
by
makes
the way,
sense.
I'm on shrooms.
Yeah, like my reaction to it was like outside of his music, I've never seen any interview he's done, anything like, to get an idea of his personality. So I just thought he was just like when they were on the panel getting asked that question, I just thought like, man, he's just a really big hockey fan. Like, because that's kind of how I sound sometimes when someone asks me like, so you like hockey? And then I just talk to them for like an hour and then realize I've talked too much and then I need to step away. Or I've found myself in a situation where my social anxiety is taking over and like I'm grasping for straws because I don't know how to exit this conversation and I also don't know how to shut up. So I just thought, it was one of those things. Either he's like nervous or he's a really big hockey fan because, I feel seen in this moment. And then when he said that he was on shrooms, I was dying because I was like, wow, he's hiked up on a high. And I've also been there, like when I had to be prescribed some heavy drugs. They do some stuff to you, and you're like, what is happening? What is coming out of my mouth right now? Like, who has possessed my body? Because I don't even know what we're doing here. And I'm just like, this is amazing. Michael Bublé is just like us.
Celebrity all-star captains. They're just like us.
I thought it was funny that this happened, and then Justin Bieber comes out walking whatever carpet that they had set up, and he's dressed like freaking Toad. So it's like mushrooms are the theme of the weekend.
I didn't even put those two together.
Oh, as soon as I said, like yesterday, I was just calling him the Mushroom Man, like Bieber, because of his coat. I was like, by the time that Team Hughes was eliminated from All Stars, I was like, I just hope the Mushroom Man wins because that coat is like spectacular. Like my man walked in like as the embodiment of what Bublé was tripping on the night before.
Speaking of Bieber, he was having a great time out there. He was living
the hockey fan dream.
He was. His energy was like infectious, man, because you could tell he was just like
It was
Like just
wholesome.
truly, yeah, happy to be here, like living a dream. Like I loved it. I was by the end of it, I was like, Bieber deserves the victory just because he's like the one that's really invested. Like he wants this. Like I think that Coach Biebs should get it.
Like I
It's
only
rigged.
caught a little bit of the draft that they did, which I thought was cool in a way to kind of like shake it up instead of just okay, you're all from this conference, you're all going to play on this team. Um, but it did kind of die out a little bit for me after a while because when I realized like, but they're not even gonna really take this seriously. Like, and I get why they don't, but then I was like, oh, okay, I don't really care so much anymore. Um, but I did see that like Bieber, I don't know. Again, I didn't watch the whole thing, but when they would go to like the Matthews team, he was kind of like chilling in the background, and I was like, "Is Biebs shy? Is he like out of his element? Like, what's going on?" And but I think he kind of like got into the mix of it like later on, in from what I could see, like later on the week. But maybe all the guys are just being elite like hockey players of like knowing how to put together their teams. He's like, I'll let you all like take care of that.
My favorite thing about most of the interactions was anytime, like there was a moment where they were interviewing Sidney Crosby and Connor Bedard, and I swear for like the like as they're talking to Sid, like Bedard's just there with like this like awestruck, like, oh my god, it's Sidney Crosby face. Like my favorite thing about the player interactions was watching all of the players interact with Bedard because it like they really were like it felt to me like they were treating him like a child. like like this is our rookie, our little baby rookie all star. Like there was a moment where like McKinnon was looking at his stick and like took it from him, and I seen somebody tweet they were like Nathan McKinnon steals from children, and I was like, that's how I felt watching that interaction. Little baby Bedard.
I mean, he was just there getting front row seats because he couldn't do anything with his. He wasn't cleared to join the masses.
Yeah, and that's like, that didn't stop Jack Hughes either. He was no part of it, but he showed up for draft night and sure as hell like screwed
Mm-hmm.
up Quinn's draft strategy. Like, sit down, you sweet summer child. You're not even competing in this.
Well, Quinn was just gonna draft all his Canucks buddies anyway.
That it was so priceless. Like everything, like on those hot mics and everything gets quiet, and then you just hear like Petey go, "Do you think Brock will be mad?" Jack was messing with our team chemistry, man.
Okay. Jack was just trying to do what Jack does. That middle child syndrome kicked in.
That's what Mickey said too. As she said it, she was like, "That's just middle child syndrome."
I know what that's like. It's a little bit of chaos in there. Because why not? On the opposite end of that energy spectrum, Kucherov.
Oh,
What are your thoughts on how he handled the skills competition?
I was just happy whenever, because like I completely forget in the skills comp, I completely forgot that like Team Hughes had drafted him. So by the end of the skills comp, I was like, Cooch just better move his damn feet tomorrow. Like he doesn't have to put in an effort, but at least get up and down the ice. Like look like you're trying to be less of a pylon and more of an active moving body, you know? So listen, anytime this is for all the Leaf fans out there, anytime that you guys have a reason to boo, I sort of enjoy it. So as much as
Pasternak was taking jabs at the Leafs fans.
I listen, if I was a Tampa Bay Lightning fan, I don't know if Cooch was one of the fan votes or not. I think if I was
He
a Lightning
wasn't.
fan,
I
okay,
checked that.
okay, because if I would have voted him in, like if I would have put the effort into voting Kucherov in, and that was like the effort that he gave during the skills comp, I would have been. It would kind of left a bittersweet, like not even bittersweet. It would have left a bitter taste in my mouth. Like, come on, man. Like we wanted you there, and this is how you show up. But in its own way, it was fun because like by the game yesterday, whenever he managed to score the goal, he did the lap and was just like giving it to the crowd, like continue to boo me, please. And I was like, listen, you at least showed up for the team effort, Cooch. That's all I asked.
I mean, I honestly, at this point, I'm not entirely sure outside of some of the players just generally don't care to be there. And we know that they added the extra incentive of you can win $1 million. Like, cool. Like somebody on the broadcast had mentioned how much Kucherov makes, so it just kind of seems like he doesn't actually care about the 1 million. It's not gonna do it for him. And so whatever the reason is, and I'm sure there's multiple, like, yeah, a substantial amount of how the players are is reaction to this event that the NHL has put together is just of no interest to them.
Yeah, it was a pretty
So
boring obstacle course.
I understand that people, like the fans who pay to go attend and the fans who are genuinely interested in watching it, it's upsetting to see him just kind of like sandbag through everything. But then I can also see the fact that, like, yeah, the NHL has had a problem with having the players be interested in this in general. So, and Kucherov decided, I am just not going to put on a pretend smile. So
he was a mood.
I laughed at it though. I laughed at it.
I really thought it was funny because like the first time that they really started booing him on like that first challenge where he was just like zero effort, there was a moment where like it was like JT Miller, Elias Pettersson, and Matthew Barzal were all over there like snickering amongst each other as the boos kept getting louder. So they're all just kind of like giggling, like it looked like they were having that moment of, well, at least it's not us that's being booed by the Toronto fans this time. I love it though. I mean, he was a troll. He ended up leaning into it during the game, and he actually showed up. He scored a goal, and then the fans didn't forget easily. So he was doing a little bit of crowd work there as after he scored his goal. I mean, at least by the end of it, you like to see that there was maybe it was more effort than Cooch wanted to give, but he at least came around, and he gave the fans some extra content out of the experience. So I'm sure the Leafs fans will have a great time the next time the Lightning are in town.
But one of my favorite things was the goalie hugs that Swayman was handing out. And I saw some chatter about the Demko thing, and some folks were thinking that it was planned for Demko to just completely ghost him. I don't know. I don't know how Demko's personality is. No, you don't think that was the reason? He just like
He's
legit.
one of us. He's one of us. He didn't hug Swayman, and Swayman happened to be the only goalie that JT called out.
Like, you have
one
a
of us.
big head?
Like,
I don't.
No, like, we won't let. Listen, something called 2011 happened. We don't like to talk about it, but the Bruins love to keep bringing it up.
Okay, I remember that now.
Mm-hmm.
I can see. Okay, that's quite a grudge to hold, but okay.
You guys weren't even playing for the team then.
Well, it is quite the grudge, but like last season, like, okay, keep in mind they won the cup the Bruins won the cup that year. So a decade after them winning the cup, here comes Zdeno Chara and Patrice Bergeron running off at the mouth talking about the 2011 Stanley Cup. Like during the run, the Canucks were out there like practicing lifting the cup. Like, no, the hell we weren't. Like, no, that's not what was happening. And you guys won the cup anyway. Shut up. Like, stop bringing up old shit. Like, it doesn't matter now. You guys won the cup. Who cares what we were practicing before the game? And that's ridiculous anyway. My favorite thing was when Kevin Bieksa got on the thing and was like, we were doing calisthenics. Like, he was on the Sportsnet panel. He's like, we were stretching. What do you mean practicing lifting the Stanley Cup? So it may be quite a grudge for our fan base to hold, but we're not the one that's constantly bringing up crazy shit like that. Like, oh, the Bruins were, practicing lifting the cup before they won it.
Yeah, but your goalie left Swayman hanging, and that's just rude.
He's one of us.
He was so happy to give everyone
Swayman
love.
wasn't a part of that.
Demko was over there with a stank face, like, Don't look at me.
I do feel kind of bad because, like, I do really like Swayman. Like, I think he's got a fun personality, but I kind of giggled at that, like, about Demko, like, standing him up because the first thing I thought was, like, 2011. And then the whole fan base thought that way, too. So we've just been like, you know what? Demko's one of us. He's one of us. He gets it.
I mean, I'm no cheerleader of the Boston Bruins by any stretch of the imagination, but that just
Me
kind of
neither.
still gives Swayman the upper hand. It gives Boston the, we're living rent free in your minds. So I'm just saying. But
And clearly,
how dare you leave
won,
the Swayman hanging?
well, clearly
He
after
just
they won
wants
the
to
cup,
give
we're
out
still
Give
living.
genuine
some
hugs.
Some hugs.
He just
Goalie
wants
hugs.
to give love.
And he was
You said
rejected.
no to love.
That's it.
Nothing more hockey than that.
On brand. On brand.
Okay,
Oh.
but
just-
whatever. We're no. We're moving on from this because we're gonna your grudge is gonna take the entire hour.
Listen, Gary Bettman said inclusive, and I think Demko had like that. That is the extent of inclusivity in the NHL. Demko was just displaying Bettman's comments. That's all.
Okay.
Consistency.
Ottinger being like, "Hey, it's like you're kind of cheating on your boy," just kind of had me like rolling.
Great comment.
Because that was the first thing I thought. I was like, "Oh, what about Linus at home? You're just putting it out on display."
It's not special. I do it with every goalie.
Whoa. Or
Damn.
That tweet I saw of like that banner, like "Welcome home, cheater." And then I absolutely smiled when Igor was like, "Hey, I'll give you a hug." That's how
After
they do.
Demko? Yeah. He's like,
Yep.
I won't leave you hanging.
I'll be your bestie.
My favorite thing about those interactions was like watching the reaction of everybody after like Demko stood him up. Everybody else in the locker room was just like, "What the hell? It's his problem." That's the only reason why I watched the All Star game is the the interactions, the interpersonal reactions between the players, and seeing who the players talk to and who they
'cause they
chirp.
don't see
and-
each other very often. This is like you get to hang out with your buddies for a weekend.
Yeah, the interpersonal, like the content that comes out just between the players being themselves and hanging out with like their buds is always a good time. And to see like which bad blood spills over into this event that, like Kucherov displayed, clearly doesn't mean anything to the lot of them.
All right, let's move on. What is this thing? We've already talked so much about your Canucks, but carry on, I guess.
I'm sick of it. Oh, Vancouver. Oh, they're so good. Oh, who cares?
Listen, you guys made me the third co-host, and we happen to be good this year. I just wanted to say we had like 10 All-Stars there. I mean, really, if you think about it, we had 6 players. We had a coach. Finn was there, and Kevin Bieksa was there covered for Sportsnet. So it was basically like we brought the whole team along. And I don't know what to tell you, San Jose fans. It felt really nice, I guess.
We're happy for you, I guess.
I guess.
I thought we were just talking about not holding grudges.
Oh, it's not a grudge. It's just I'm sick of
What
it.
grudge would we have against the Canucks?
Once I stop hearing about them, I'll be
Are
fine.
we rent free in your mind? Do tell.
I mean, anything mildly aquatic, right? Like, think about the sharks, think about the ducks, anything mildly aquatic. I'm like, we got to get rid of them. The Kraken now.
Sharks are better than orcas, though. I will say.
Would you say that's a Shamu?
No, poor Shamu is in captivity. Set him free. Actually, is he still alive?
I don't know. I don't. I have no idea.
Anyways,
Yeah.
I'm just being a hater. It's just like, how is it fair that some teams have 10 players there and some others only have 1? It's just ridiculous.
Might I point you in the direction of the league standings, Nessa?
Oh no, I understand that the
but,
Sharks
like-
suck, but
But like the Flames didn't have anybody because the Canucks decided to steal another one for their entourage.
You guys, it was a fan vote thing.
Yeah,
like you could
I
have voted
know.
in more players. We had 4 million votes for our boys. You needed 3,999,000
How are you supposed to
more.
compete with Canada?
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, how is it fair? Like, if it's a fan vote, I understand, but there are smaller markets that aren't going to get those votes regardless. Do you get it?
That's
You
feel a little
understand?
left out.
We're not coming for the Canucks,
No,
but
I mean,
you all
the Canucks are an
did
example
vote
of how
like your entire
unfavorable
team
it
in
is.
there.
Yeah.
we voted like if we like voted them all in, like 2011 would be erased. Like that's what it was. It was like if we vote this way, we can undo the trauma.
And I'm not bitter about no other Sharks made it because our team obviously sucks. I'm just saying, like, I don't know. It's silly.
No, that is a good point though. Like you said, like a smaller hockey market. I mean, rabid, especially when the team's good. Rabid Canucks fans they're called that for a reason, because it is a different beast. Like as being out of the market as a Canucks fan, it kind of helps me have like a more objective take on everything because I'm not in the thick of it. Like that sounds wild, but I don't even post my most controversial takes to the internet because I would get eaten alive on Canucks Twitter. Like if I even mentioned JT Miller's bad attitude last season, people were like, "Why are you guys always hating on JT Miller?" And it's like, I just want him to skate, like stop quitting in the middle of a play and like get back on the back check. Stop pitching a tantrum. Rabid Canucks fans are rabid, so I get that. I get what you're saying. Like a small market in comparison, like the whole province of British Columbia is like back on the bandwagon. Like they forgot existed for like 13 years and now they're back on it. There's no way like a smaller market, like you're saying, like San Jose could accumulate those kind of points, those kind of votes and what they had for the All Star system this year, especially when you can vote whoever you want in, and stack the ballot. I mean, like I would have been, I feel like less shocked had we had friggin' voted the whole team there. It would have just been like the final votes would have just been Canucks. So I get where you're coming from. It's like you can't compete with that kind of. And I think American markets, I think it's harder anyway. Not saying that not trying to knock like San Jose, but oh my god, I pressed a button on something.
As long as the countdown doesn't start.
So I get where you're coming from. It is a little bit unfair. I feel like if they were, if we were gonna have all-star votes, like, there needs to fan votes. There should be a way to level that playing field so that the bigger markets and the smaller markets have an equal shot at getting more than a couple players there. Hopefully.
You know what was a fun year for the Sharks? Oh shit, I forgot. It was like 2017, 2016, where they sent like 4 players and the coach.
I remember that. Mm-hmm.
The board was coach. So I understand your excitement, but like 6 players is overdoing it a little.
But I mean, listen. Yesterday,
even
Mark
Toronto
Messier
has
was
that
like,
many
still
players.
lost.
Pedersen won the passing contest, but Messier was on there talking about like again, like bringing up stuff from like 5 centuries ago. He's like, the last time we had this many players here, there was 9 of us. We were all Oilers. We were all here back in 1887, and it's like,
you said 1887.
that's how it felt. The way he kept telling that story to PK Subban yesterday.
They showed up before the NHL existed, of course.
Right. That's how it felt. Messier's like lore. He was, because you can't talk about the Canucks around Messier. He's always got to direct it back to that one time he screwed over Trevin Linden out of the captaincy and went on to win the Cup in New York. But he was telling his lore and the centuries old lore. So I don't know. I like to just kind of flex on Messier a little bit. You know what? You might have done that 100,000 years ago, but we did it in 2024.
Hey, Jay, I don't know about you, but I'm sick of talking about the Canucks, so. Drew, I hope you know I'm just messing with you.
As always, I'm your host, Jay.
I'm Nessa.
I'm Drew.
Thanks for joining us,
Bye.
guys. Bye.